Iminachantay-dos na Kongreso Manhoben Guam is hereby called to order. And I'll call Representative Roque for the prayer. Please stand.
If we can bow our heads and close our eyes. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for waking us up this morning. I pray, Lord, that this session will be smoothly as possible, Lord. I pray, Lord, that you would give us good traveling mercy and keep us safe. Father, I bring the needs of our government before you and ask you to bless our nation through godly leaders. I magnify the name of Jesus and declare that he is the Lord over this nation. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Thank you, Representative Roque. I now call Representative Jacob Richards for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see?
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. I now call Representative Quintanilla for the Guam hymn.
Fanogi chamo
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. I now call Representative De Gracia for the recitation of the Inifresi.
Inifresi, ginene mastaculo, gihinasoku.
Please be seated. Madam Recording Secretary, roll call, please.
Representative Cabrini Uggan, Representative Byron Blas, Representative Travis Blas, Representative Abriana Cruz, Representative Kyle DeHelig, Representative Noel Brandon de Gracia, Representative Joshua DeChoso, Representative Lauren Dinsman, Representative Maria DeLohan, Representative Abel Isaiah Duenas, Representative Davin Felison, Representative Prairie Garrido, Representative Al Edric Labang, Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo, Representative Jewel Amber Maige, Representative Valina Matanani, Representative Keandra McDonald, Representative Janae Pareda, Representative Zachary Pierre-Paul, Representative DeMarco Caneni, Representative Tristan Quintanilla, Vice Speaker Jacob G. Richards, Representative Chelsea Roque, Representative Casey Rosario, Representative Elijah Santos, Representative Javen Santos, Representative Vicente Blas Tyron, Representative Kyla Ann Trinidad, Speaker Christian F. Valencia, Representative Isabel Valencia. Mr. Speaker, there is a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Recording Secretary. Moving on to the next item in our session agenda, a call for approval of the Legislative Journal. Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to waive items 7 through 11 of the legislative agenda today.
There's been a motion to waive items 7 through 11 of our legislative session agenda today. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, so ordered. Moving on to item 12 of our legislative session agenda. Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make the motion to have every bill deemed to have their first reading.
There's been a motion to have all bills and resolutions included, Mr. Floor Leader.
Yes, resolutions included.
As of today, to have deemed to have their first reading. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, so ordered. Moving on to motions. Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole.
There's been a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, so ordered. The Guam Youth Congress is now in the Committee of the Whole to invite our oversight chairperson of the Committee on the Advancement of Youth, Senator Amanda L. Shelton.
Thank you, Lawrence, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to come before the body. I'm very excited to be here today. For those of you who I haven't met yet, there are some new faces. My name is Amanda Shelton. And first, I want to say congratulations on your inauguration. I wasn't able to be here. I was off island in November when you were all inaugurated, so it's very excited, and congratulations. Give yourselves a round of applause. I'm really, really happy to see such a full room. I was actually in the 27th and the 28th Guam Youth Congress, and a lot of times it was difficult to have a quorum, so I'm really happy to see that so many of you are serious about the legislative process and doing good for our community, so thank you very much for being here. And I just wanted to come and introduce myself to all of you and to introduce the staff in my office who will be available to you for whatever you need. This is Aguaran Iriarty, okay, and then JP Manuel. So I want you all to feel free. I have an open door for all of you at any time, and I've already invited your leadership, the speaker, and I've talked to Stephanie. You're all invited. I'd like to meet with you, come by, and we'd like to connect you to your committee counterparts in the Guam legislature. So if you have any questions for me now, or if you'd like to say anything, feel free. Okay, yes, Tristan.
Will you be able to provide us with legislative counsel on our bills and resolutions?
You're asking if you can use the Legislative Council?
Yes.
Okay, we can definitely look into it and see what we can do for you.
Yes.
And then I'll have, Aguaran's going to pass out my cards so you can have all of my contact information. Send me an email, stop by my office. I'm right upstairs in the back on the second floor. Okay?
Thank you so much, Senator Shelton, for being with us today, and we're looking forward to working with you throughout your term
Thank
here.
you, Speaker.
Thank you. We're in recess. We're back in session, and we're still in the committee of the whole. Can I have everyone introduce themselves, and if you're a committee chairperson, into the microphone, and if you're a committee chairperson, tell us the name of your committee as well, okay? We'll start with over there. Representative Labang, you're recognized.
Hi, I am Al Labang, and I am the chairman for Committee on Education and Youth Affairs.
Representative DeChoso, you're recognized.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Speaker, I was over there. Could you, what were we introducing?
Just introduce yourself.
Oh, ourselves, okay. Hi, I'm Representative Joshua DeChoso. I'm representing the village of Dededo. Yes.
Hello, I'm Representative Davin Felician. I'm representing the village of Jigo.
Hafaday, Senator Shelton. My name is Javen Santos. I was the speaker of the previous term, and I'm currently serving as the Committee on Rules, and I represent the village of Barragata.
Hafaday, Senator Shelton. My name is Stephanie Lorenzo, and I represent my beautiful village of Barragata. Oh, and I'm also the legislative secretary. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Senator. My name is Byron Bloss, and I'm representing Fardones Memorial High School.
Good morning, Senator Shelton. My name is DeMarco Kaneni. I represent the municipality of Ordot Chalampago.
Good morning, my name is Valina Matsunani. I represent John F. Kennedy High School, and I'm the chairperson on the Committee of Economic Development, Labor, and Tourism.
Good morning, my name is Elijah Santos, and I represent JFK.
Good morning, I'm Representative Chelsea Roque, and I'm representing Simon Sanchez High School.
Good morning, Senator. My name is Noel DeGracia, and I'm a representative for Dededo.
Good morning, Senator. My name is Tristan Quintanilla. I represent the village of Agate, and I am the chairman of the Committee on Health and Human Services and Gender Affairs, and I'm also the chairman on the Committee of Culture and Chamorro Affairs.
Good morning, Senator. My name is Representative Lauren Dinsman. I am a GCC representative.
Good morning, Senator. My name is Janae Pareda, and I'm representing GCC.
Good morning, Senator. Hey. Good morning, Senator. My name is Zachary Pierre-Paul, and I'm a representative for GCC.
Good morning, Senator. My name is Jacob Richards, and I represent the municipality of Jigo. I serve as the chairman of the Committee on Public and Municipal Affairs, as well as the vice speaker of the Youth Congress.
Mananasi Du'us. My name is Abriana Cruz. I am the representative for Academy of Our Lady of Guam, and I am also the vice chair of Culture and Chamorro Affairs.
Good morning. My name is Cabrini Ugin. I am representing Ukuru High School, and I'm also the vice chair of the Committee on Health and Human Services and Gender Affairs.
Hafaday, I'm Kyle DeHillig. I'm representing Ukuru High School, and I'm also the chairman of the Committee on Land and Environment.
Good morning, my name is Abel Duenas, and I'm representing George Washington High School.
Hafaday, Senator Shelton. My name is Prairie Garrido. I am a representative. I'm one of 3 representatives from the University of Guam, and I am also the chair on the Committee of Public Safety and Judiciary.
Hafaday, Senator. My name is Vicente Blas Tyron, and I'm the representative of the municipality of Tamuning, Tumon, and Harmon.
Good morning. My name is Casey Rosario, and I'm the representative from T10 High School.
And our two clerks here at the front.
Hafide Senator Shelton, my name is Mary Marvilla, and I'm the recording secretary of the GYC.
Good morning, Senator Shelton. Jermaine Alerta, I'm the assistant recording secretary, and that's Lawrence Alcairo. Oh wait, he has a microphone now.
Sergeant at Arms, thank you. And former speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to all of you for being here. So again, whatever you all need, please feel free to contact me, and we'll be trying to set up meetings for you to meet your counterparts in the Guam legislature for the committee chair people. And can I have a group photo? All right.
Test.
back in session. Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, now that we're back in session, I would like to make a motion to excuse all those.
A motion to rise.
Oh. Okay. Well, before I do that, then, I would like to make a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole.
There's been a motion to rise out of the Committee of the Whole. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, so ordered. Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
I would like to make a motion to excuse all members not present today.
There's been a motion to excuse all members not present today. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, so ordered. Representative DeChoso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to make a motion to address the appointment of Assistant Recording Secretary.
There's been a motion to address the appointment of the Assistant Recording Secretary. Are there any objections? If none, so ordered. Representative DeChoso, you're recognized.
All right. I would like to make a motion to nominate Mr. Jermaine Alerta for the position of Assistant Recording Secretary.
There's been a motion to nominate Mr. Jermaine Alerta for the position of Assistant Recording Secretary. Mr. Alerta, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
All right. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, so ordered. Now, on the question of appointing Mr. Jermaine Alerta as our Assistant Recording Secretary, all those in favor, please raise your hand. So ordered. Congratulations, Mr. Jermaine Alerta. And now continuing on with our legislative session agenda, are there any other motions? Representative Labang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move to place Bill 2-32 third reading file. Second reading file.
There's been a motion to place Bill number 2-32 in the second reading file to be discussed. Are there any objections? If none, so ordered. You may continue.
Mr. Speaker and colleagues, writing Bill 2-32 got me influenced by the question in my mind, how we can better influence the youth. A better youth involvement and a better way to connect to the youth. Bill 2-32 intends to have a Guam Youth Congress member to be part of the Guam Council on Youth Affairs. We all know that the fact that Guam Council on Youth Affairs is inactive. With this bill, we will not only have Guam Youth Congress member be part of the council, but also a potential to reactivate the council and to have youth representation in the council. The Guam Council for Youth Affairs is intended to be an advisory council for the Department of Youth Affairs, or DYA. They were responsible to approve plans and programs of DYA and to oversee the DYA's policy and budget. We know the fact that DYA administration are mostly made of adults, but the Guam Council on Youth Affairs allow youth to see in the council. Youth perspective is important in our today's government because of the youth of today as our leaders of tomorrow. I just want to add on with going to the Lieutenant Governor's inauguration. He mentioned that youth should rise up, and I think participating in a council such as the Guam Council on Youth Affairs is an effective way to rise up, to rise the youth of Guam. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Labang. Before we continue with speeches, Madam Recording Secretary, please read the title.
Bill number 2-32, as amended by the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs, introduced by Representative Labang. An act to amend Section 20105 of Title 19, Chapter 20, Guam Code annotated relative to including a Guam Youth Congress member in the Guam Council on Youth Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Recording Secretary. Moving on the motion, on the main motion, are there any representatives who wish to speak? Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a point of inquiry for Chairman LeBang.
Representative LeBang, do you yield?
Yes.
You may continue, Representative Kennedy.
What exactly does the Council on Youth Affairs do?
As I stated earlier, they're an advisory board for DYA, and they also plan the programs as well as write grants for DYA and to oversee the budgets and plans as well. It was in the Guam Code annotated.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure because it's one of the first times I'm hearing of the council on, I just wanted to make sure for everyone's sake we kind of know what it is, Mr. Speaker. After the point of inquiry, I would like to continue. Okay.
Yes, you may continue.
The one thing I wanted to get out of the way is just what exactly the council was for. It's mainly oversight, I guess, on the Department of Youth Affairs. I support the resolution in its entirety. I guess there's nothing else to comment on. It's a pretty nonsense resolution.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Are there any other representatives who wish to speak on the main motion? Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
I have a question for Representative LeBang, if he would yield.
Representative LeBang, do you yield?
Yes.
You may continue, Speaker Santos.
So my question is about the funding, or rather the stipend for those on the council. When the Guam Youth Congress has appointed positions on boards in the government, it's usually not funded, or it's usually not a stipend position because we receive our stipends from our participation in the Guam Youth Congress. So my question is, under the bill that's been proposed, does the representative or the person who's appointed to the Council of Youth Affairs, if he's a member of the Guam Youth Congress, receive both stipends, the stipend from the Guam Youth Congress and the Council of Youth Affairs?
As it stands right now on the bill, they do get paid, but if someone want to proffer an amendment that they don't get the pay, then I'm welcome for them to make it.
Well, I guess I'm asking, is it your, Mr. Speaker, I guess I'm asking, my question is the intent of this bill to get paid for both positions?
Actually, my intent is only to have a Guam Youth Congress representative representing us, not actually get paid. So if someone want to make an amendment to take out the pay, then I'm welcome.
All right. No further questions, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to reserve the rest of my time for testimony.
On the main motion, any other representative who wish to speak? Oh wait, Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Sure, do you have it written down? Do you have a copy of the amendment?
Yes, I have it.
Okay, could you please transmit it to the clerks up here? We're in recess. We're back in session. Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
So this amendment I'm proposing is to change line 24, page 2 from Section J, Northern Region, Tumuning, Tumon, Dedido, Jigo to Section J, Northern Region, Tumuning, Tumon, Harmon, Dedido, Jigo.
Do you wish to speak on the amendment?
No.
On the amendment, any representatives who wish to speak? Seeing as there are none, are there any objections to this amendment? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative Tyron, we're back to you on the main motion.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. Any other member who wishes to speak? If none, Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
I'd just like to speak in support of the bill. Initially, I was also confused because I didn't know what the Council on Youth Affairs was or what department it was under. So learning that it's under the Department of Youth Affairs, I guess one of the things I'd like to see happen if the bill does pass is to advise the department to be a little less reactive and more proactive in terms of reaching out to the youth rather than waiting for them to offend or break the law and be incarcerated at the department. So if this could help further that, then I would support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Any other member who wishes to speak? If none, Representative Labang, you're invited to close. We're in recess. We're back in session. Representative Lebang, you're recognized.
Do you have anything? Okay. Mr. Speaker, I want to make a motion to send this bill back to committee for further research. I just got some new information regarding the committee.
Okay. There's been a motion to send bill number 2-32 back to the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We're back to motions. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to place bill number 3-32 into the second reading file.
There's been a motion to place bill number 3-32 on the second reading file. Secretary, please read the title.
Bill number 3-32, as amended by the Committee on Economic Development, Labor and Tourism, introduced by Representative Kineni. An act to repeal and reenact Section 3105 of Article 1, Chapter 3, Title 22, Guam Code Annotated, relative to responsibly raising the minimum wage.
On the motion to place this bill on the second reading file, are there any objections? If none, so ordered. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry. When it comes to minimum wage and cost of living standards here in Guam, we have a fairly, sorry, I'm gonna just raise my mic up a little bit real quick. There we go. Sorry. When it comes nationally in the United States, when it comes to comparing Guam's economy to the economies of the states and other territories, we tend to fall slightly behind in where their minimum wage levels actually lie. Right now, the current federal level, I believe, is just $1 below what Guam's minimum wage is right now, which sets the balance for everything. $7.25, I believe, is what the federal minimum wage is right now. Guam keeps it right at $8.25, $1 right above at $8.25. Sorry. What the bill I'm proposing plans to do is to raise it to $9.25 by the start of next year, January 1st, 2020, and then to raise it another dollar the next following year, January 1st, 2021, to bring the minimum wage up, to responsibly bring up the minimum wage to $10.25 by January 1st, 2021, which will bring us a little bit more in line with the other states and territories in America, because of the movement to, move the minimum wage up to $15. It does have positive economic impacts for Guam. I would like to address some of the cons I feel like I'm going to be hearing later already, such as the rise in unemployment levels due to paying for more higher paid positions. As I was researching for this bill and coming across a multitude of articles, from a conclusion I've made, I've seen that there is no negative impact to raising the minimum wage, and the benefits to raising it is a better quality of life of those affected by the minimum wage increase, along with general increases in service and manufacturing departments during the first year of the said minimum wage increase. So this increase does help the island's economy as a whole. It's not just a Band-Aid solution. It's not, it looks nice, we can present it to the legislature saying, we want to raise the minimum wage. We're saying, here's what we can do, here's our two-step plan. Let's raise it responsibly for the people of Guam, so we can start to better the lives of the people here. It's just one of the small stepping stones we can do, in terms of reform for the island, but it's one of those stepping stones, I said again, towards a better standard of living here on the island. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak? Representative Lebang, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to point out to everyone that with the, I would say, handout that I asked the Sergeant at Arms to pass out. That is the minimum wage comparison chart that I made, I calculated myself. Let's just compare how much each minimum wage earner earns per paycheck and per year. So it shows the one that are in a full-time minimum wage and a part-time minimum wage. So if we increase it to $9.25 and $10.25, it kind of slightly increases it. So the point I'm presenting is that I don't think that with this kind of minimum wage increase the responsible way, it will not drastically affect our economy. But I have some concerns in terms of what's happening in the current right now. So my concern is that with the recent raise with BPT, from 4% to 5%, it might cause some businesses to raise prices and good as well. So it will be a domino effect, so I think that's normal. So I know that the Guam legislature are proposing to roll back the business privilege tax, but the other concern that I have right now is the economic impact statement. I think we don't have it right now. So I think it's vital for making decision to raise it or not. But however, I know it's minimally increasing is a good idea because it does not create a drastic impact and allow us to adapt to the new standards. I just want to also point out in the back page of this handout, there is a chart there that shows Guam unemployment rate from 2007 to 2017. As we can see that from 2011 to 2017 is kind of dropping, but there's kind of a little bit increase when it was between 2016 and 2017. So I got latest information as of March 2018. Our unemployment rate is 4.4%, and that is very low, I guess. Going back to the front page, I just want to point out that the federal minimum wage is $7.25. In 21 states, with same minimum wage, 21 states has the same minimum wage as the federal minimum wage, and 27 states and Washington, D.C. have a higher with the federal minimum wage. Then Puerto Rico and the Marianas, I know that their own is below the minimum wage, which is $6.55. I know with similar bill in the 33rd Guam legislature, I know they passed this same exact measure. And I read the committee report, and most businesses oppose the raise of minimum wage. I think it's natural because, like, as a business perspective, we want to earn as much as we can, right? So, but in terms of voting, I just want to leave this question. What should we represent, business or the people? Because I think, for me, we should represent the people. So I just want to share this case. Nibia versus New York, 1934, upheld the price-setting activities of the New York Dairy Control Ban and provided legal foundation for government regulation of businesses. So I think we should regulate the businesses. So, but anything, I'm in support of this bill. That's all.
Thank you, Representative Labang. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Dahilig, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make an amendment to the bill.
Do you have the amendment ready, Representative
Yes.
Dahilig? Clerks, please read the amendment.
Where's the bill? I am. The amendment is on line 5, page 1 of Bill 3-32. Add the word her before him. So it'll be her/him. So the line would read, every employer shall pay each person employed by her/him wages at a, and then continue to line 6. Correct?
Yes.
On that amendment.
I'd like to add the amendment because to avoid loopholes and to also fairly include equal gender representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dahilig. On the amendment, any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Representative Labang, you're recognized.
I think the current structure of the law regarding minimum wage says him, but I think with this amendment, it will make it more neutral, so I support it.
Thank you, Representative Labang. Representative Rosario, you're recognized. You're recognized on the amendment.
Sorry, I have a amendment. I'm not able to say it.
We'll get back to that.
Okay.
I'll recognize
cool.
you.
Thanks.
Representative Kennedy, on the amendment.
Sorry, yeah, as the author of the bill, I just wanted to say this was the exact wording of the Guam Code annotated. This was in no way me excluding the other side of the gender gap. So it was just word for word by law. I just changed the numbers. I didn't change any of the writing, the writing inside the law. So sorry about that.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. On the amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support this amendment just because it makes sure it's inclusive, but I also wanted to amend the amendment in order to make it sound right on the law itself. So besides adding her/, just for the sake of making it sound more smoothly grammatically, just to change him as his, her, or his wages. Thank you.
On the amendment to the amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? On the amendment to the amendment. Vice Speaker Richards, you recognized.
Can I just ask a question to Representative Blas?
Do you yield, Representative Blas?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Can I just clarify what the amendment to the amendment is? You said to replace it with his/her or her/his.
I'm sorry. I'll just make it her or his wages, not him wages, just to make it sound correct.
So it's to read, every employer shall pay each person employed by his/her wages.
Her.
Yeah, I think it's grammatically correct as is.
Oh. Oh, okay. Then. Okay. Then can I just, what's the word for it? Can I resolve my amendment to the amendment?
Rescind.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Can I rescind my amendment to the amendment?
Withdrawn.
Withdraw.
Okay, the amendment to the amendment is withdrawn. We're back on the amendment. Okay, just a point of clarification to the body. The him in the language refers to the employer, not to the employee, right? So that's correct as the language stands. Okay? So on the amendment, to read, every employer shall pay each person employed by her/him wages at a rate. Continue on with the language. On the amendment, are there any objections? If none, amendment passes. On the main motion, Representative Rosario, you're recognized. Okay. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? Representative Dichoso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to pose a question to the author of the bill.
Representative Kineni, do you yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I yield.
You may continue, Representative Dichoso.
Thank you. So my question that I would like to pose is, there was a lot of in the justification for the bill, there was talk about matching up the minimum wage of the island to that of abroad. But I believe a more relevant justification for the raising of the minimum wage would be to talk about economic factors specifically on Guam that would lead you to the conclusion that raising it to $9.25 is a good idea, and then $10.25 in the next 2 years is a good idea. So I guess the question simplified, I'd like to ask, why specifically $9.25 in 1 year, and why $10.25, and what are the factors economic factors on Guam that led you to that conclusion?
All right. Thank you for your questions. I guess we'll talk about the rate of increasing it, or the initial rate and then the rate of increasing it. We decided $9.25 at the first increase. Next year was just a roundabout dollar increase. You know, there was no specific tying to the dollar increase. It's just to safely raise it up, you know, instead of drastically like other states and territories have. It's to, you know, raise it at a level where it's comprehensible to the government and to the businesses, saying that these are the rates it's going to be. You need to get more acclimated to what it's going to be like.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. I do have another question, if that's okay. Could I?
You may continue.
So I understand trying to have our wages be comparable to other places, but did you consider other economic factors such as the number of people who are employed, at minimum wage, and the effects of raising the minimum wage even in that long time frame? Have you considered those economic factors and the effects that would have on these businesses, especially smaller businesses who may struggle keeping up with that rising minimum wage?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, one of the things when I was crafting this bill was I was looking at both the pros and cons of writing this up and, you know, debating it here today as we are. And the one thing I do regret that I did not share with the whole body, I guess, was the research that went into this bill before it was even presented to the committee, because my reasoning, and I'll explain the whole reasoning for this bill before, you know, we put it to a vote. The one reason that I introduced this, and it's because I was reading a bunch of articles, you know, journal entries and articles about how increasing the minimum wage in multiple states and certain cities in multiple states around the U.S., how it did, like, we were all talking about the con effects here. We were talking about how it might bring unemployment, or rise unemployment rates and unavailability for jobs because of the higher minimum wage. According to the studies, it was like in the 6 American cities, the study was done in, when the rate increased to $10 or even $15, there was no major drop in unemployment rate, and the change that did occur in the unemployment rates was actually favorable and not negative. But these were all minimal increases on the business side. So you can see the business side, it increases minimally, but for the cost of living and for the people around in the area, it was an extra $1 or $2. It was an extra $3 on their pay per hour. You know, that equates to more money for them later that they spend for the economy, that they in turn spend on the island, which comes back to the government of Guam. So, sorry. Does that answer all your questions, sorry?
Yeah, that's sufficient. No further questions.
Thank you, Representative Kineni. And thank you, Representative Dichoso. Do you have anything further?
No, I would like to reserve my time to testify.
Okay. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion?
Just a point of inquiry for the body. This bill is actually the mirror of...
You mean a point of information?
Yeah, I mean a point of information. Sorry. This bill is basically the mirror of Bill 3112-33, which is passed in the 33rd Guam legislature. And I know they publish committee reports, and I just want to read some myths about raising minimum wage. So, myth 1, increasing the minimum wage will cause massive job losses. And it says here, according to the latest employment data published by the Guam Department of Labor, Guam's economy witnessed over 1,200 new jobs since the minimum wage increase went effect. That doesn't mean that some parts of our economy didn't see a period of adjustment or that every industry is thriving. It simply means that minimum wage increased, and whether there is a correlation or not, more people in Guam are not working less. So just a point of information for everyone, I'm gonna share this document to you guys, but it's 159 page long, so I don't think we have the time today.
On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Pereira, you're recognized.
So I'm in support of this bill, but would like to speak to the author.
To ask him questions?
Yes.
Okay. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized. Or do you yield? Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I yield.
You may continue, Representative Pereira.
So I feel that a year is too soon. Like right after 2020, there's going to be another raise of minimum wage. I think it's safe to, would you think it's safe to add another year to that?
Personally, when I wrote this bill, actually the original amount was, this was actually a compromise that we made in the committee. My original idea was to raise it straight, was to just raise it, I think, to 925 at 2020 and leave it at that and decide for the future legislatures if we want to raise it again. But the idea was put to the committee to raise it in a two-step plan, you know, $1 now, $1 later, so it's brought, so we bring the levels up to a suitable level at 1025 by 2021. It was really a short-term plan that we planned on just instantly raising up the minimum wage without. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. Okay, sorry. So my intent was to raise the minimum wage at sustainable increases. So like I thought a year was perfectly suitable for dollar increases along the line, as long as it stopped at 1025 at 2021.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Pereira. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? Representative? If someone can yield for you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just like to point out that in the legislature, there has been a proposal to expand tax relief for small businesses. So if there was a concern regarding whether or not it might be a little too much hardship on the small businesses, I think this tax break might be able to help alleviate some of the costs.
Is this a question to the author?
No, I'm also in support of the bill. It's just a statement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dahili. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Garrido, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a person who has worked in a minimum wage job for 3, almost 4 years, I just want to say that I support this bill, mostly because I've witnessed the hardships that people have to deal with having to support a family with barely enough money to make it by. So I just want to commend Representative Kanani for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Garrido. On the main motion, Vice Speaker Richards, you recognize.
I'd like to pose a question to the author.
Representative Kennedy, do you yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I yield.
And please, when you're asking questions and answering questions, please address the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask if you have any of the research or articles available.
I have them all saved on my personal computer, which I did not bring with me to session today. I kind of seeing where, like, if I was thinking more of the longs of recalling this bill until I probably send out the rest of the research information. But other than that, no, I do. To answer the immediate question, no, I don't have the research on me right now. But this was, done with the committee's help, so it was really a balanced effort. This was not just me writing it.
Thank you. If I may continue, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. You may continue.
The reason I asked that is just because of the gravity of this bill. I'm thinking a dollar raise might seem small to some, but it continues to spiral on as we look at the bigger picture. So if we look at a person's full-time paycheck from $1 increase, becomes an $80 increase in pay, and for their salary becomes a $2,080 increase. And for a business owner, say maybe only 5 employees, that's a $10,400 increase per year. And it's running a business is a very delicate operation. Things happen very slowly. Your return is not going to come back within a year. It may take up to 3 to 5 years. And doing 2 large increases like this, I feel may be a little too much, which is why I wanted to see the research to see how that might impact it. Because I want to support the bill. Because I also worked a minimum wage job, and I know how hard it is to struggle with that. But we also need to look at the bigger picture in order to better serve the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards.
Just
Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion?
Just a point information again.
Please state your point of information.
I'm basically going back again to this committee report. It says all the myths about raising minimum wage there and the information. So I think maybe we can see what the myths are and what's the defend why we should raise it. Because this committee report is vital for this bill, I guess. Because we don't have the economic impact statement.
Okay. The point of information is turning out to be a testimony. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? Representative Bloss, you're recognized.
Can I ask a question to Representative LeBang?
Do you yield, Representative LeBang?
Yes. The committee report, which you're referring to as a point of information, this was with the bill during their proposition to raise the minimum wage up, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
And when was this?
It was in the 33rd legislature. So like, I would say 2 years ago.
Okay, and do these myths which you are presenting to us, do they acclimate themselves with the proposed minimum wage rate?
So the proposed is similar to this, but instead of 10.10 the following year, instead of 10.25 the following year is 10.10. So I guess there is a similarity. It's very similar. So
Can you give me the exact value?
So the bill proposes that 1 year from this bill's passing, it will be $9.25. Then the following year, it will be $10.10. But the bill we're talking about today is $9.25 and $10.25. So it's just 15 cents difference for if we're gonna talk about the $10.25.
Okay, thank you. I was just doing this for the point of clarifying. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bloss. And thank you, Representative LeBang. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, my fellow colleagues, I rise in support of the minimum wage because as a former retail employee, I have all but the highest respect for those who work in these type of minimum wage fields. These are stressful, labor-intensive jobs, and I can honestly say that the work that I did in a minimum wage job is as difficult, if not harder than the job that we do now as Youth Congress members. To those of you who may argue that this would hurt small businesses struggling, the bigger picture is that most of those employed in the minimum wage aren't the small businesses, but the large corporations that can support a minimum wage increase. Furthermore, many businesses on Guam support the minimum wage increase because with all those people who are working for those large corporations getting a minimum wage increase, they have a larger income to spend on small businesses. I know what it's like to struggle with not having enough money to have the spending to support local, because just these small chain or franchise places are so cheap because they have the profits to stay cheap. And this is why with the minimum wage increase, those small businesses will see an increase in revenue, because the spending and the spending power of the island and the spending power of so much of the workforce on Guam would increase. For those worrying that costs will go up, as many people pointed out, these costs can be counterbalanced and reevaluated when we look at the taxes that we place on the businesses on Guam. We hope to find a balance between the taxes that we provide, or the taxes that we take from our businesses, and allowing our businesses to prosper. Furthermore, studies have shown that employment does not go down in places that increase the minimum wage. Employers are smart enough to employ what's best for their profit margins already. So if a minimum wage increase, if an employee or if an employer already has the minimum amount of employees necessary, then really all that happens is that minimum amount of employees gets a wage increase. In states around the country, higher minimum wage means economic growth and better quality of life. We've done it on Guam, and the studies have shown that after we have raised the minimum wage, there was economic growth on Guam. So my colleagues, we must help our economy, and we must help our people struggling to support themselves with the minimum wage. And as youth, we might think that a lot of the minimum wage employed are youth like us, youth who may still live with their parents and don't support bills, or don't support as many bills as those living on their own. But many of the minimum wage workers on Guam are struggling to support either themselves or maybe even struggling to support a family. The largest industries on Guam that employ minimum wage workers are tourism, retail, and food and beverage. Many of these employment agencies, many of these employers come from large business owners and come from large corporations. So these companies taking maybe a couple $1,000s off of their profit margins that are already in the billions will come to support the small businesses on Guam, and will come to support our government and our economy on Guam. I beg the body to not let corporations and rich and the 1% within the 1% feed you lies that allow them to keep their profits so high and to keep lining their pockets. We need to give this money back to the people of Guam. We need to give this money back to our youth of Guam who are working minimum wage, and we need to support this minimum wage bill to make our island more prosperous. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Dichoso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, I already asked a few questions earlier. I just want to say I'm on the fence. I'm hoping that other people can come in, but as it is right now, I am skeptical about the bill and what is proposed. In terms of the concept of raising the minimum wage and this fight against poverty, of course, I'm against poverty. Of course, I really hope everybody here is against poverty. I hope that we all have the same goal, or that we are aligned in the same way in lifting people out of that terrible spot economically. But I'm skeptical about the prescription that the bill provides towards that goal. Only because as I questioned or as I asked from the author of the bill, Representative Kennedy, I'm not convinced by comparisons between the island of Guam as well as others as the sole basis of raising the minimum wage. Saying that other places have a higher minimum wage and saying that we should match up to that, I believe is not sufficient in why we need to raise wages artificially. I believe what should be considered are economic factors, and that's why I asked the question twice in different ways. So I went ahead and I looked at the highest rates of unemployment provided by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and compared it with Pew Research.org's statistics on the states with the highest wages. And what we see is states like Alaska and Massachusetts and Washington, D.C., they have the highest rates of unemployment according to the BLS. Coming from Pew Research, these same states, Alaska, Massachusetts, D.C., and even more, they have the highest wages. So in summary, what is this to say? It seems that there is a correlation between higher wages as well as higher unemployment. So the question becomes, why is that? The reason why is because labor is like everything that runs a business. It is a product. And that's not to say that it's meaningless, because without labor, we cannot have a sustainable economy. But the truth of the matter, if you want to break it down to technicalities, labor is a product, and that is something that you provide for the business, and in turn, they pay you back for your time and your labor. So the problem with raising the minimum wage, and there was a representative talked about how a tax relief for smaller businesses would help. The problem is this whole focus on just smaller businesses, which is important, of course. Smaller businesses are important. This whole focus on them ignores the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is this. When you artificially raise prices for wages, or when you artificially raise wages, that also raises the prices for the products that they sell. Because if you're going to raise, for example, let's say we have one employee, right? And if their wage goes up, the wages of their other coworkers, that will also have to go up in turn. This is just basic economics. This is how businesses have to keep up with costs. So if the wages for one employee goes up, so will all the other wages for the other employees, and in turn, the business will also have to raise the prices for their products. So this is going to affect everybody. This isn't just going to affect people working at minimum wage. It's going to affect people working above minimum wage and close to minimum wage. So there was also talk about corporations and people and businesses who have a large profit margin, and why exactly they're able to keep their products cheap. The reason they're able to keep their products cheap is through innovation and through competition. That's why they're able to keep it cheap. It's not because they are hoarding the profits. In fact, most of the profits, anybody who understands how business works, profits go to running the business as well as going to the people who are employed at those businesses. This is why we saw that bump in the economy when there's a decrease in the wages. from 1981 to 1990, wages actually decreased from 829 to 660 to 666, and this is actually this statistic comes from Richard Freeman, a economist who adjusted for inflation and the change of times. So in 2017 currency, or how it would be weighted now, wages decreased by nearly $2 in that 9 years, and poverty actually declined in that span of time. Another point I would like to make is to talk about the 1% not paying their fair share when, not paying their fair share when 1% is not a viable description for a group of people who pay a certain taxes or whatever, fees. Mr. Speaker, yeah, that'll be all I'd like to make.
Thank you, Representative DeChoso. Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
I'd just like to express my support of the bill because I find that we shouldn't be the implementation of the bill, like little by little raising the minimum wage. I find is a good idea because it allows the people who are working minimum wage jobs more spending power, and I understand my colleague's concern, but I did some research, and actually what they're proposing, like raising it little by little, would actually allow businesses the proper amount of time to pay their employees, and it's not like we're just gonna raise, it's not like we're gonna raise minimum wage right away. That's the purpose of it being like little by little. And so yeah, I definitely am in support of this bill. I think that the people working minimum wage jobs definitely deserve this, and I see no problem if we're doing it, if we're staggering it. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? If none, Representative Kennedy, you're invited to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank every representative here, either whether you spoke or whether you didn't, for your opinions on the bill. For those who are on the fence or even opposed, we do offer the committee report that was done on Legislative Bill 312-33. It was written by former Speaker B.J. Cruz. There was an economic study actually done on this. There was a full PDF sent to the group chat. I'm not sure how long ago. There is the actual research done for the bill. This was just a mirror copy because this bill was actually vetoed by the governor for, it was more for political purposes rather than an actual substantive veto. So the research is done for the bill already, actually. I was just not in my right mindset to pull up the actual legislative bill that I based it on. So if you guys would at least give that an overlook before we vote on it today, and if that helps change your mind, great. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. That's about all the research we have relatively pertaining to this issue here on island. But I feel like the argument for raising the minimum wage is pretty straightforward. I guess the business aspects could complicate the implementation of this and could give opposition to it. But I feel for most of the population on the island, this is a benefit to them. I cannot see this as a hindrance to anybody in the community once this is fully implemented. This is just the hows and the ifs of how to get this done, and we're just proposing a general solution to them right now. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, and with that, I would like to make a motion to move Bill number 3-32 into the third reading file.
There's been a motion to place Bill number 3-32 into the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, so ordered. We're back to motions. Any motions? Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move to place Bill 5-32 into second reading file for discussion.
There's been a motion to place Bill number 5-32 onto the second reading file to be discussed. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Clerk, please read the title.
Bill number 5-32, as amended by the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs, introduced by Representative Javen Santos and Representative Prairie Garrido. An act to amend subsection A of section 8103, Title 17, Chapter 8, Guam Code Annotated, relative to amending target implementation dates for Chamorro curriculum.
Thank you, clerks. Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bill number 5-32 is a bill it's an amendment to a public law that that I found so fascinating for so long, and I guess now I'm introducing it to hope to get you to bring it on the floor. It's just, to me, I see Bill 5-32 as a simple fix to a problem of lack of implementation of law. The bill is simply keeping everything as written in law, except for the target implementation dates. We're amending the target implementation dates in the hopes that the superintendent and el legislador en Guam and the Board of Education on Guam can take up the mantle and create the curriculum for the Chamorro language courses on Guam. I can testify to the fact that up to a point, these Chamorro language courses work. I remember in elementary school, when I was taking Chamorro classes, I was speaking Chamorro with my family. But after 6th grade, you don't have to take Chamorro. For me especially, there's no Chamorro class until high school. And for me personally, because of my schedule, I wasn't able to take Chamorro until my senior year. So that's a 6-year gap between taking Chamorro, and I lost my ability to speak the language. I asked my colleagues to recognize the importance of revitalizing our Chamorro language. Our Chamorro language was taken from our throats from the impacts of colonization on Guam, and I asked my colleagues to support this bill because this bill is a step towards revitalizing the language, especially in the youth of Guam. The Chamorro language is inherently important to Guam, to the Marianas, and to the Chamorro people, and to those living in this area. I hope to, and once again, this bill, though amending it so that the Chamorro language can be implemented basically between kindergarten all the way up to 10th grade, according to the law, is just a fix on a current law that's already in place. The Guam legislature had passed this bill unanimously to support the revitalization of our language in Guam, but the implementation just wasn't there. So I write this bill to hope to revitalize this bill so that it just doesn't become one of those dated or one of those outdated bills that never get implemented, or one of those outdated laws that never get implemented. I'm not sure for those of you who hadn't attended, or I'm not sure for those of you who haven't seen our current speaker's inaugural address, but the Speaker of the Legislature talks about implementing those bills that are in law, but just haven't seen their way into being implemented. And this is this is akin to that mentality of going back into the books and looking at laws that not only did our people already come to support, and looking through the public hearing of this bill, everyone at the public hearing unanimously supported this bill. But also to revitalize our language, to revitalize the Chamorro language, so that not only will the youth be able to speak, but I guess a sort of barrier that inhibits our youth from connecting to our Saina, our Manamku through language can be healed, and that bridge can be crossed over. So once again, my colleagues, this bill is already in law, and the only thing that I hope to fix is the implementation dates, so that we can see the Chamorro language prosper and we can combat the colonization that has taken the Chamorro language out of the mouth of our youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak. Representative Garrido, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to begin by stating that I am not ethnically Chamorro. Although I'm not Chamorro, this does not blind me from the fact of how imperative it is to ensure the longevity of the Chamorro culture, and as an effect, the Chamorro culture. I was born on Guam and grew up on our beautiful island for the majority of my life. I have a deep affinity with the culture and the people here. Yet no matter how unique and how beautiful our culture is, there's one simple fact to be stated, and that is that the Chamorro language is slowly diminishing within our society. This is predominantly due to the fact that some families that upbring their youth disregard the significance of inculcating the Chamorro language within their family. We have no say of what families do within their households. However, with this bill, we can have a say of what we want our children, our siblings, our cousins, and those that we love and care for. We can have a say of what they learn within our public schools. We can also have a say of how we want to work towards the reinvigoration of the Chamorro language. It is saddening to realize that the Chamorro language is slowly dying along with the elders who've tried so hard to keep it alive. With Bill 5-32, we have a chance on behalf of the youth of Guam to take a stand against this. Former senators are in agreement with this, and that is why this bill has previously passed and was supposed to be implemented starting in 2013. But we see that this is not the case. It's not too late for the generations to come, and if we pass this bill and enact it in the school year 2020, we can make this more attainable for the future generation. With all this being said, I hope that Representative Javen Santos and I can garner your support for Bill 5-32. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Garrido. Representative Pereira, you're recognized.
So I'm in support of this bill, but I would like to pose a question to Chairman Santos.
Speaker Santos, do you yield to the question?
Yes, I yield to the question.
You may continue.
So on Guam, our Chamorro heritage is dying, but there's only so many few adults here on island that know the language, since many of them have already passed. So how would we implement it in the schools if we don't have enough Chamorro speakers here on island?
Well, the schools already are required by law to implement a Chamorro department in the public school system. I believe, to my knowledge, all schools have met that requirement, which was created in this law. But in terms of the curriculum itself, no teacher or no counselor has opened a Chamorro language course to be taken more than the bare minimum requirement, which is just 6th grade and 1 year in high school. So the Chamorro teachers are in the schools already. It's just a matter of implementing the curriculum to be expanded so that we can, so that the language can be taught throughout, can be taught further throughout the school, throughout a child's academic career.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Pereira. Representative Labang, you're recognized. Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just want to speak for my full support of this bill. Like Representative or Mr. Speaker Santos has said before, he had a six-year gap from elementary to high school, and I want to also say that that happened to me too. I wasn't able to take Chamorro until my third semester of college because my middle school and my high school, they didn't offer it at all. And I know I went to a private high school, but it does affect like my cousins who do go to like public schools. They don't have that. And you know what I learned in Chamorro is that our language is dying. That's one of the facts, is that not, you know, like Representative said, there are not a lot of Chamorro speakers on island. And if we implement this, maybe we could revitalize it, re-synergize it into where the youth are, so where our generation can speak our native tongue. So I hope Representative Santos and Representative Garrido can gain the support of everyone else here, but they definitely have my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Lorenzo. Representative Kineni, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was going through this bill, I actually have a point of inquiry for the floor leader before I begin my testimony.
Mr. Floor Leader, you yield.
Yes.
Okay. Regarding the bill's actual changes, the only changes that were done were the years to the standards being implemented, right?
Yes, that's the only changes.
Okay, so what's to keep this what's to keep this bill or this act from not being implemented like the last one that was passed by the Guam legislature?
I would say that's the responsibility of the body, and I would say that's the responsibility of the youth to push for the oversight and to push for this bill's implementation. I think that because this bill in its current form, besides the implementation date, should be very straightforward. It's now up to us to make sure that it goes through fruition, because we weren't, at least for me, I wasn't there at the time to realize that this was a problem until I'd already gotten out of high school, until I already passed the implementation dates. But this bill I see is the step towards making sure that this bill doesn't, or making sure that this law doesn't fall through again, because it's the responsibility of us to keep our government leaders in check and to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. So that is definitely what I'm going to do if this bill were to pass. And yeah, I would say that that's the main difference, is to oversee our government leaders to make sure that this bill gets passed or gets implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Majority
Does
Leader.
that answer your question, Representative Kennedy?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, you may continue.
Okay. Take my testimony on this as no way, shape, or form me trying to degrade our promotion of the Chamorro languages. I'm very for promoting our culture, our heritage. My problem with the bill, though, is that it seems to move dates around with not really having any substantive benchmarks or any sort of goals or milestones to accomplish this implementation of the Chamorro language program. So again, like I was asking the floor leader, if we, what's to keep us then from passing this bill now, getting it on the legislative floor, passing it there, and just not going implemented again because there was no means or no, like, I feel personally like this bill needs to have some kind of, milestone, some kind of guarantees to show us where the progress is being made on the Chamorro language being implemented, rather than saying we're going to implement it at this year and that's it and you guys come up with the plan. I feel like, we should set up some stepping stones for at least the board of the GDOE, the board for GDOE, So at least we set up milestones for them so we know what we want them to accomplish in this time period rather than just giving them, here's 2022, we want you to implement a program by then, and that's it. I feel like we should be updated on their progress. We should have certain benchmarks that show their progress rather than just saying, here's a law that can go unenforced again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Kineni. Representative Rosario, you're recognized.
I have a question for Representative Santos.
Do you yield, Representative Santos?
Yes.
So it says that the 3 categories are beginning Chamorro, intermediate Chamorro, and advanced Chamorro. So what about, so you know how you have to take it from elementary to 10th grade? That's what you're introducing, right? Sorry.
That's not what I'm introducing. This bill is already in law. All I'm
Okay.
introducing is implementation dates to change.
So what about the students that come from private schools and then go to public schools? So are you gonna is it gonna be like offering beginning, intermediate, and then advanced tomorrow in high schools, or? Sorry, I'm just confused on, like, is it gonna be offering all 3?
I would say that that's to the discretion of the board. When this bill was introduced, the Board of Education had supported it. The Department of Education had come and said that they supported it. And I believe that the board at that time had an understanding of what these definitions would mean. So the curriculum of beginning tomorrow, intermediate tomorrow, and advanced tomorrow, whether it would be offered at every school, I mean, the exact structure of the curriculum itself would obviously have to change from the current system in the public schools, which is just tomorrow itself. But I'm not really sure how transfer students, when they transfer from private to public schools, meet requirements. I'm sure that that's a difficult situation and that they would have to work that out with their counselor and their principal one-to-one. But I don't see this as a bill that would impede any student who transferred from private to public schools from graduating on time. It would just have to do with the implementation of the board and the principals of the schools to make sure that that particular case gets solved on a case-by-case basis, of course.
Does that answer your question, Representative Rosario?
Kind of, but I have another question on top of it. So how do you suppose that situation gets handled?
I'm not really, I was from public school from kindergarten all the way to high school. I don't really know, but I assume that there are exceptions that happen in the case of private schools, because the private school curriculum is so different, but if they transfer, they still should be able to graduate on time. I'm not aware of the exact procedures, but I assume that on a case-by-case basis, the compromises in order for them to graduate properly should be able to be met without too much of a problem.
Does that answer your question, Representative Rosario?
No, not really, but thank you. Thanks.
You may continue. Anything further? Nothing further. Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
I'd just like to express my full support of this bill because I myself, or personally, I have family, particularly nephews that go to public school, and the Chamorro language program in at least elementary public school has not actually taught them most of their Chamorro. They have to pay tuition to go to a private institution that is specifically focused on teaching the Chamorro language. And I think that says a lot about the curriculum and study materials used for the Chamorro language courses in the public school system. And I just have some specific data. So with the implementation of, for example, another language that's struggling is the Hawaiian language. With the implementation of the Hawaiian courses being taught in the island of Oahu from grades K through 12, it's actually seen an increase from 2009 to 2013. And I think that's a model that really shows that if we implement our language courses that are well structured, with good, reliable, and detailed study materials for students, then we could actually see the data of Chamorro speakers, at least in our generation, go up. And I know one of my colleagues expressed concern about the lack of benchmarks or the lack of structure within the implementation of this bill, but rather I think of it as good because we don't want to have a set average for people to at least meet, but rather we should encourage students to try their best in Chamorro to really keep it alive. And so as someone who has not had the opportunity to learn Chamorro for the past 8 years since I've been in private school, I really am appreciative of my colleagues pushing for this to be implemented, and I am very excited to see the Chamorro language live on within the public school system and within our generation. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. Representative Labang, you're recognized.
I just have some concerns with this bill. If I have some inquiry to the author if he would yield.
Speaker Santos, do you yield?
Okay. So I have been in contact
Yes,
with...
I yield.
Oh, sorry.
You may continue.
So I have been in contact with some School of Education professors, and they said that most of their graduates, only 2 to 5 per cohort have the specialization in Chamorro language. So do you think this will be constrained again with the implementation target date?
I don't think so, because outside of the School of Education, I do know that the Chamorro Studies major is also an option for students to get their education and then apply it to teaching. So I don't think just because the School of Education does not have teachers graduating specifically for education on Chamorro Studies, I don't think that that necessarily means that there won't be enough teachers to implement this program. I just think that there are other options and other forms of education supplemented with the fact that they speak the Chamorro language and are certified to teach and have all the proper certifications to be a teacher would be ample enough to provide the amount of teachers that are necessary.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Anything?
This is all for now, if I may reserve my time.
Okay. Thank you. On the main motion, Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remember when this bill was first passed, I was excited for it, but I was talking to one of my classmates, and he was saying, "Why are we doing this? Like, Chamorro language is dead, blah, blah, blah. We shouldn't do this. You know, if we compare ourselves to the kids in the States, this is just an extra class that's taking up our time when we could be taking something else like chemistry. And I felt so hurt inside for my culture and for my people. So I was also hurt when I saw that it didn't get implemented into the public school system. So I was very excited when I saw this on the session agenda. That being said, I'd like to echo the sentiments of Representative Kineni in that if we don't allow enough time for the curriculum to be expanded, like Speaker Santos said, it may just happen again. So with that, I'd like to propose an amendment that I have.
Do you have a copy of the amendment?
Yes.
We're in recess. We're back in session. Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll wait for the body to settle. The amendment is being passed out. All I really did was change the years to add just 2 more years to allow time for the curriculum to be expanded and for more teachers to graduate from the university. And with information from Representative LeBang saying that graduates are about 2 to 5 Chamorro teachers per cohort. There's 4 semesters within that 2-year period, so anywhere between 8 and 20 new Chamorro teachers will be added. I think it's a great amount to help implement the new curriculum, and that gives them time to also form it with the advanced conversational Chamorro, I believe. Yes, so that is the amendment.
On the amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? Speaker Santos, you recognize, and then Representative Kineni.
Mr. Speaker, I support this amendment. I see it as a compromise, and a compromise that, as long as this bill finally gets to implementation, that I'm willing to accept. And one of the benefits of this amendment is that it gives us even more time to make sure to make an issue out of the fact that this law has not been implemented, because that's really what it's going to take to get this bill implemented, is the voice of the youth to say, hey, this bill has not been implemented, and this is really important to us as the youth of Guam. So, yeah, I do support this amendment, and I hope that with this amendment, we also see that the body will have time to come out and make sure that this bill gets implemented. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Representative Kineni on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the, I guess looking at this is just postponement again of what I was mentioning earlier. Like, this still fails to like provide safeguards for, you know, enactment. There's nothing here to say like, if we included the year in the last public law. It was in the law saying we needed to, you know, develop a curriculum. So when that lapsed and nothing was done, my question still is, you know, to the body is that what's to prevent that from happening again? So I feel like this amendment is just postponing something we still haven't really addressed at its core issues. How do we make sure the program is actually going to get implemented this time instead of just switching around the dates and making it look symbolic? Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kineni. On the amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? If none, let's vote. On the amendment to change the language or the years from 2020 to 2021, on line 21 to 2022 to 2023, you get the amendment. On that amendment, all those in favor, raise your hand. Amendment passes. On the main motion, we're back to you, Vice Speaker Richards, if you had anything else.
Nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Representative Cruz on the main motion.
Mr. Speaker. I would just like to show my full support for this bill, only because I transferred from a public middle school to a private high school, and taking Chamorro all my elementary and middle school years, it hurt my heart when I went to a private school and saw that, wow, Chamorro really isn't offered. And with that being said, listening to everybody here also say that the Chamorro language is dying, it hurts my heart, because the language isn't dying, the culture isn't dying. It only dies if you neglect it or don't take action to do anything. There are so many people who care about the Chamorro language with promoting, preserving, and perpetuating, but it's up to you and essentially your efforts and willingness to make a change and make a difference. Because Pare ima maila siya in Chamorro, which translates to for those who have yet to come. With this bill being implemented again, and for Javen to reintroduce it and say, hey, this is something that we should look into, it's really the cultural revivement the Chamorro culture needs right now. And being the vice chair of Chamorro and Chamorro Affairs, it really just, it's something good that we should be doing this session, and I'm glad that it's being introduced this early, and within the years to come for it to be implemented within the education system, it makes me really happy, and I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cruz. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
Afternoon, everyone. As the chairman on the Committee on Culture and International Affairs, I would like to echo the words of my vice chairman. I am in support of this bill and its intent, and I hope that you all can consider that.
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? If not, Representative Dichoso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to say that I am in support of the bill. When I first moved to here on Guam, I started my 6th grade year in middle school, and I was kind of in shock at the fact that I wasn't going to be learning Chamorro, because one of the things I wanted to do, having been away from the island for so long, was to reintegrate myself into the culture and learn more about the island that I was born on. But then I realized that in this short time span, or in the 3 years I was in middle school, I wasn't going to be learning Chamorro, and I learned Chamorro in 9th grade, and then after that, it was like the blink of an eye. It was as if it came and then it was gone. And I see that as something that is, I see it that it's really tragic to see that the culture is not thriving as it should be. And so I want to say that I am in support of the bill, but I do want to say that there is that Representative Kennedy did bring up an important point, and that there should be some form of enforcement, implementation, something to guarantee that this bill won't just flop upon enactment. So while I do support the bill, I do encourage the author of the bill and everybody in this body to inculcate those values and the culture on this island, and to protect what's left of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dichoso. Any other member who wishes to speak on the main motion? If not, Speaker Santos, you're invited to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank all my colleagues for coming out and sharing their concerns and showing their support for the bill. And I really wanted to keep this bill in its entirety to make a statement that with the proper voice and the proper and being able to check and keep watch of our government to make sure our government is doing what we want our government to, and what the government has decided, that this bill or this law can be implemented if just given another time, if just given the time. I thank I thank Vice Speaker Richards for supporting this bill and for creating that amendment, because with ample time to get the board on board and to prepare for this curriculum to be implemented, I see this curriculum as monumental in changing the way that our island sees the language, and for changing for revitalizing the language for the next generation. I would like to bring to attention in the bill that the bill allows for the board to accelerate the timeline of the program at the recommendation of the department. So just because the bill by law has more time in it, if they get this done faster, and if we use our voice to make sure that this bill gets implemented faster, we can make this bill a reality either way. And because the board and the department are so heavily involved in the creation of this curriculum, we need to make sure that we keep them accountable. we need to make sure that the Board of Education and the Chamorro language departments at our schools and the principals and the legislature of Guam can come together to make this bill a reality, because the legislature already decided that this is what should be implemented in our schools. We just have to give our government a second chance to correct this problem and this lack of implementation that has occurred. And we correct that mistake by using our voice and telling the government that, hey, this is in law and that this needs to be implemented. So with that, Mr. Speaker, once again, I would like to thank everybody for their comments, for their support, for their assistance in crafting this bill a little bit further. And really the implementation, the oversight, and the assurance that this bill will come through law. For me personally, I believe that this will come through the youth and the people of Guam using their voices. So with that being said, I would like to place bill number 5-32 into third reading file.
There's been a motion to place bill number 5-32 on the third reading file. Are there any objections? There's been an objection. All those in favor, please state your objection.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a consequential motion to place Bill 5-32, refer Bill 5-32 back to the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs until they've come up with the guidelines to fix the implementation of this law, because I feel this is still just moving dates over and not putting any substance to this bill. Thank you.
Point of order. I think we should dispose the floor leader's motion first before we entertain that.
I'm just going to double check with our parliamentarian and then move forward, okay? We're in recess. We're back in session. Now dealing with the motion made by Representative Kineni to refer the bill number 5-32 back to the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs. And now referring to the Mason's Manual with regards to a motion to take from the agenda and refer a committee back. It takes precedence over the motion before that. So first we're going to address Representative Kineni's motion, and we'll see how that goes. And then if whatever happens after that, if we need to address the motion before that, we'll do that as well. So on the motion made by Representative Kineni to refer bill number 5-32 back to the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs, are there any objections? There's been an objection. All those in favor, please raise your hand, of referring it back to committee. Raise it higher. Motion fails. Now on the motion to we were voting on the motion to refer it back to committee. All those in favor of referring bill number 5-32 back to the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs, please raise your hand. Motion passes. We're still on the second reading file. Are there any motions? Representative Kineni, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to place a motion to place resolution number 6-32 into the second reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 6-32 on the second reading file to be discussed. Are there any objections? If none, seeing as there are none, so ordered. You may continue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Resolution 6-32 is a resolution intended on creating a process for those seats we have classified as a permanent vacancy. And our standing rules determine permanent vacancies as those vacancies for villages and school where no elections were held. So, you know, places like the southern villages that normally don't have elections, such as Mauricio Umatic, several high schools. This is just to provide, you know, a way for them to enter that's been more smooth than most of the other members, prospective members I've had asked me and been turned away because there's no process into including them until the special election. I feel that if you have an interest and you want to join now, why not? We have 50 seats available to us according to law, so let's stretch the 30 to 40 if we can accompany the new members. Thank you.
On the main motion, Representative Labang, you're recognized.
I have some amendments regarding this resolution. I'll just wait for the Sergeant at Arms to disseminate the amendments.
Thank you, Representative Labang.
Okay, so the first amendment I want to make is on page 2, lines 10 to 13. Item C and D. I want to amend it to read, I want to amend the item C to read approved and verified by administrator of the Guam Youth Congress. Then for item D, I want to amend it to read approved and verified by the oversight chairperson of Committee of Youth on Youth of Ilas Turanguahan. And on page 12 to 13, I wanna delete after receiving a majority of affirmative votes, and to read it, being approved and verified by both administrator of the Guam Youth Congress and oversight chair of the youth committee. The reason is, if I don't think that we as a body should vote for the incoming representative, because that might be a conflict of interest. Furthermore, I just want to give a precedent of how governor appoints U.S. senators. Because the governor can, once there's a vacancy, the governor can appoint someone to fill in the vacancy or have an election, right? It depends on the state's constitution, I guess. So with this amendment, I'm just trying to mirror how they appoint a U.S. senator, and I'm just trying to mirror it with Guam Youth Congress.
Okay, we'll address your First Amendment.
Okay.
First, okay. On the First Amendment by Representative Labang, the one that amends lines 10 to 13 on page 2. Any member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Representative Kineni, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the author of this bill, I have to say I am opposed to the amendment to the resolution 6-32, only because when I wrote this resolution, I intended it to make the GYC more of a autonomous, not autonomous branch, but autonomous running organization where we control who comes in, who goes out. You know, it's up to us to decide if we allow people to join us or not. With respects to our oversight chair and our administrator, approved and verified by our oversight chair, which would mean sending our presumptive representatives to the office of the Honorable Amanda Shelton. And I feel as, even though she's the oversight chair for GYC, this is issues we can handle in-house without bringing forth more attention to our oversight chairperson. However, if majority of the body feels like we need to involve our oversight chairperson into bringing new members into our body, that is totally fine, if the whole body agrees with that. However, I feel as originally wrote, the amendment sufficiently covers a gap of an issue I saw, which was allowing people to get into the Youth Congress in the first place and not placing more time boundaries or other steps around to get into. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Kineni. I'm sorry? No. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? If none, let's address the amendment. On Representative Labang's First Amendment, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Representative Labang, you can close on the amendment.
I just want to point out the reason why I make this amendment is to stop special interests or conflict of interest. Because if we vote as a body and we know the person who's coming in, that's kind of a conflict of interest and special interest that we're entertaining. So I think that a third party, involving a third party or another party would take out those biases. I just want to say that I feel that if we vote with the person who's coming in, I think that is undemocratic and it's not the way how it should be. Because like a governor's appointment receives votes, but it's for different branches for the different cabinet posts in our island, but I know that when a governor appoints someone to the U.S. Senate or Congress, they don't even, the body doesn't vote. So I think we should mirror that, because it's gonna be a undemocratic process. Because with just having us vote for it, it's just saying that we should just call our friend and be in Guam Youth Congress. So I think with this amendment, it's gonna solve the issue of conflict of interest and special interest. That's all, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Labang. On the amendment, are there any objections? Are there any objections to the amendment? There has been an objection. All those in favor of Representative Labang's first amendment to amend lines 10 to 13 on page 2 of the resolution, please raise your hand. Motion passes. Representative Labang, you're recognized on your second amendment.
So my second amendment will be on page 2, line 17, just to add transmitted to Senator Amanda Shelton, our oversight chair, and just us there what to add.
Okay, on Representative Labang's amendment, are there any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to make a motion to request for a short recess on the clarification of the second amendment made by Representative Labang.
There's been a motion to recess. All those in favor, please raise your hand. So ordered. We're in recess. We're back in session. Representative Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and also thank you for giving me the recess. Representative LeBang clarified his amendment, and I am satisfied with his clarification. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On the amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? If none, are there any objections to the amendment? Seeing as there are none, amendment passes. Representative Kineni, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker,
Representative LeBang, we're back to you. Sorry.
So yeah, with the new amendments, I support this resolution. I know that there might be conflict with the legality of it, adding it to rules, because I know the Legislative Council said that we cannot fill it in based on the current stature. Maybe the best way is to also, if anyone interested on proffering a legislation to amend the Guam Youth Congress stature, then I think I'm open to work with that person. So I just fully support this resolution.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Representative Kineni, you're recognized. And then Representative Lorenzo. Yes?
Mr. Speaker, at this time I'd like to make a motion to withdraw Resolution 6-32 from the second reading file.
That's a motion to withdraw. The sponsor can withdraw at any time. Is this a withdrawal from the body or withdrawal from the session agenda?
Withdraw from the body, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Resolution is withdrawn. Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to move for a short recess. Again.
There's been a motion to recess. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes. We are in recess once more. We're back in session. Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
I make a motion to place bill number 5-32 in the second reading file, pending an amendment to the bill.
There's been a motion to place bill number 5-32 back on the second reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have proffered an amendment that I hope is satisfactory to creating the channels to open the lines of communication between the board who is in charge of the implementation of the curriculum and the Guam Youth Congress, and also I Legislature and Guahan. Many times when the legislature enacts bills, they want to have oversight of the bill, so I created a requirement and included it in the bill where it's required to have a quarterly report sent to I Legislature and Guahan and this body regarding the progress of the development of the curriculum until implementation of the section of the bill. So, so while the bill is being implemented, we get to see a quarterly report because I believe it was our assistant recording secretary that pointed out that up until the prior month when the bill is supposed to be implemented, there was no concerns, and then in the prior month, what happened, the committee wasn't prepared and the law was not implemented. So a quarterly report being required on updates to both bodies, I feel, is addressing the concern of lack of just the lack of oversight. So I'm hoping that this quarterly report, combined with my intent earlier, which is to say that the voice of the youth needs to come out in support of this issue as well, is reasonable enough to gain the support of the body to get this bill to pass. So I hope that the body understands the amendment, and I hope that the body supports the amendment into passage or to at least placing this bill in the third reading file. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker Sanchez. So just to clarify, the amendment is to add the new language. The board shall submit a quarterly report to Legislature and Guahan and Congressman Manhoban Guahan regarding the progress of the development of curriculum until implementation of this section. Okay. On the amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank Floor Leader Santos for bringing this back to the floor again. The only reason I referred it back to committee was to, address steps for the actual, implementation of this law, the safeguards around it. So I feel like at least with a quarterly report to both us and the Guam legislature, it at least gives us some progress on what they're working on until we get to the implementation year. So I would like to speak in support of this amendment and hopefully full passage of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to speak in support of this amendment because I feel that it satisfies my previous concerns with implementation. That is all.
Thank you. Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Okay. Seeing as there are none, are there any objections to the amendment? Seeing as there are none, amendment passes. On the main motion, on bill number 5-32 as amended by the committee and amended on the floor. Any member who wishes to speak? Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
I have a question for the sponsor of the bill.
Speaker Santos, do you yield?
Yes.
Okay, so when the year comes when the curriculum is implemented, I was just wondering if the performance report card released by each school yearly would have a section of the progress of the curriculum and how their students have improved their Chamorro language skills or may have not improved their Chamorro language skills.
We can make an amendment to the amendment if that's what the body sees, or, well, the amendment already passed, but we can make an amendment to the bill to require a progress report or require an update after the bill has been implemented if the body sees fit. Yeah, I would have to, if anyone's interested in working on that amendment, and otherwise I would have to work on that amendment. But from my understanding, I thought that the once through the implementation process and the bill is being implemented, then it would be the responsibility of the legislative oversight to see whether the bill, or to see the progress and the improvements, but I'm open to an amendment to add that provision or something similar to it.
Just, I think there's some clarification that's needed. You were asking about a progress report, right?
I was asking like post implementation of the curriculum.
Okay, so nothing in relation to the quarterly report that's here in the amendment. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other member who wishes to speak on the amendment? Or on the main motion, sorry. If none, Speaker Santos, any motion you would like to make?
I'd like to make a motion for a recess.
Are there any objections? Are there any objections to the motion to recess? There's an objection. All those in favor of going into recess, raise your hand. Motion fails. Representative Labang, you're recognized.
Can we just make a motion to pass this on file for now so we can discuss the other resolution that we have on the agenda today?
Okay. All right. I invited Speaker Santos to make a motion if he wanted to place it on the third reading, because we're done debating the bill. The amendment passed. There's no one else who wishes to speak. So you're invited to close and make your motions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank Representative Tyron for his question in addressing the post-curriculum of this bill, and I hope that I hope that what I really want the body to understand is that this bill has been implemented into law, and I want to, and the amendment that we passed to create a quarterly report to enhance the implementation of the bill, guided up to its implementation, will hopefully guide it through to implementation. And I invite my colleagues to introduce amendments or introduce other bills as well in regards to the act to not oversee and to create this, to make sure this bill goes even further, or to make this law go even further with things like encouraging more teachers in the public schools to teach tomorrow, and furthering this bill through questioning the board and questioning the tomorrow departments to ensure that this program gets implemented. So with that being said, I make a motion to place this bill into the third reading file.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. There's been a motion to place Bill number 5-32 as amended by the committee and amended on the floor onto the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Any other motions? Representative Bang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to place Resolution 7-32 to second reading file.
There's been a motion to place Resolution number 7-32 onto the second reading file to be discussed. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Can the clerks read the title, please?
Can we get the clerks to read the title of the bill, please? Thank you.
Resolution number 7-32, introduced by Representative Al Edric C. Labang, relative to respectfully requesting the Speaker of the 32nd Guam Youth Congress, the Chairperson of Committee on Rules of the 32nd Guam Youth Congress, the Executive Director of Ilehilas Lachurang Guahan, and the Administrative Officer of the Guam Youth Congress to work together on oversight of the Excellence in Youth Leadership Award as stated in sections 7111 and 7112 of Chapter 7, Title 2, Guam Code Annotated, and requesting all youth committee organizations and representatives of the 31st Guam Youth Congress to nominate youth leaders that meet the criteria stated in the section 7112 of Chapter 7, Title 2, Guam Code Annotated.
Representative Labang, you're recognized.
With Resolution 7-32, I have been asking the leadership on when would we start the process of selecting the recipient of the Excellent in Youth Leadership Award. I just feel like that I've been asking, but there is no progress, so I reintroduced this resolution I made last term. And another reason why I reintroduced this resolution, because I know that the Guam legislature have a new executive director. So I know that there is a procurement process for the awards that we're gonna give the recipient. So I think with that resolution, we can ask the executive director to have a procurement for this award. And moving on to this award, I think with this resolution, I hope that we can start the process and award the recipient as soon as possible. Because by law, we are required to do it quarterly. So for me, recognizing the youth leaders is very important because as youth representative, we know that we complement the hard work of these youth leaders who maybe elected us to this seat. So I just want to keep this short. We know that we just commenced, but that should not be, we just started the term. But I think in terms of having a selection for the award, I think that's not gonna be the problem. So I think, I know running for Guam Youth Congress requires a lot of work. And that is the reason why I want to be in here, because I want to work for the youth. So basically, that's my opening statement.
Thank you, Representative Labang. Would anyone else like to speak on the resolution? Speaker Valencia, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Although I echo the sentiments of the past speaker, of the sponsor of this resolution with regards to implementing and carrying out these awards for the many renowned members of our youth. I also want to echo a sentiment he made with regards to that we just started the term. And I ask all the members of the body here of the Youth Congress to give us some time. And I feel that the resolution is not needed at this time with regards to, I mean, it's already in law. I mean, we're already required to do it. It just takes some time. I mean, the legislature, the 35th Guam legislature just started its term. It's still working out its administrative requirements, its payroll, its employment. Everything is just, it's still in the works. And I just ask that the body give us some time, give the leadership some time to work in collaboration with the executive director of the legislature and with our oversight chair and with our administrator. That's all we ask. And with that, I make a motion to place this resolution, to pass this resolution on file. Mr. Chair.
There's been a motion to pass the resolution on file. Are there any objections? There's an objection. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes. Speaker Valencia, you may resume the chair.
We've exhausted all the items on our agenda. Representative Lang, you're recognized.
I just make a motion to waive engrossment of all the bills we discussed today.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Waive the engrossment of all the bills we discussed today.
There's been a motion to waive engrossment for all the bills and resolutions that are on the third reading file, notwithstanding House rules.
According to the rules, 2/3.
On a motion to waive engrossment for all the bills and resolutions passed by the, or on the third reading file before voting. Yes, and can I ask the clerks to reference the rule?
So in reference to the motion, as some of you may recall, we did not engross the bill at the last session before passage. I'm assuming it was in the interest of time. Engrossing bills before passage, section 7.05 is what requires the engrossment of bills prior to passage. However, a 2/3 affirmative vote of members present may waive the engrossment of a bill prior to passage. And again, I'm assuming this is in the interest of time. Engrossment of bills is whenever a bill has an amendment. An engrossment simply states that all amendments are made onto the bill and a final version is presented to the body, which is the engrossed copy.
Okay, on the motion to waive engrossment for all bills and resolutions on the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Let's move on to the second roll call. Mr. Floor Leader, you're recognized.
I have a motion to have second roll call reflect first roll call.
There's been a motion that the second roll call reflect first roll call. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Moving on to the consideration of the daily file, the third reading file. For Bill number 3-32, clerks, please read the title.
Bill number 3-32, as amended by the committee, as introduced by Representative Kineni and amended by the Committee on Development, Labor, and Tourism, and further amended on the floor. An act to repeal and reenact Section 3105 of Article 1, Chapter 3, Title 22, Guam Code Annotated, relative to responsibly raising the minimum wage.
Roll call, please.
Representative Cabrini-Uggan. Representative Cabrini-Uggan, aye. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Byron Blas, pass. Representative Travis Blas. Representative Travis Blas, absent. Excuse that, absent. Representative Aubriana Cruz. Representative Aubriana Cruz, pass. Representative De Helig. Representative De Helig, aye. Representative De Gracia. Representative De Gracia, aye. Representative DeChoso. Representative DeChoso, pass. Representative Dinsman. Representative Dinsman, pass. Representative Duenas. Representative Duenas, aye. Representative Felicen. Representative Felicen, pass. Representative Garrido. Representative Garrido, pass. Representative Labang. Representative Labang, aye. Secretary Lorenzo. Secretary Lorenzo, aye. Representative Matanani. Representative Matanani, aye. Representative Pareda. Representative Pareda, aye. Representative Pierre Paul. Representative Pierre Paul, aye. Representative Kineni. Representative Kineni, aye. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Vice Speaker Richards. Vice Speaker Richards, pass. Representative Roque. Representative Roque, aye. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, pass. Representative Santos. Elijah Santos, I apologize. Representative Santos, Elijah Santos, aye. Representative Javen Santos. Representative Javen Santos, aye. Representative Tyron. Representative Tyron, aye. Speaker Valencia. Speaker Valencia, aye. Just go straight to the pass. Representative Blas. Representative Blas, pass. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeChoso. Representative DeChoso, no. Representative Dinsman. Representative Dinsman, aye. Representative Felicen. Representative Felicen, nay. Representative Garrido. Representative Garrido, aye. Representative Matanani, oh, I apologize. Representative Vice Speaker Richards. Vice Speaker Richards, nay. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, pass. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, nay. Oh, Representative Byron Blas. Nay. Representative Byron Blas, nay.
Bill number 3-32, as amended by the Committee on Economic Development, Labor, and Tourism, and further amended on the floor, received 19 ayes, 5 nays, and 6 excused absences. Bill number 3-32 hereby passes. Moving on to bill number 5-32. Clerks, please read the title.
Bill number 5-32, introduced by Representative Javen Santos and Representative Prairie Garrido, as amended by the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs and amended on the floor. An act to amend subsection A of section 8103, Title 17, Chapter 8, Guam Code Annotated, relative to amending target implementation dates for Chamorro curriculum.
Roll call, please.
Representative Uggan. Representative Uggan, aye. Representative Blas. Representative Blas, aye. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeHelig. Representative DeHelig, aye. Representative DeGracia. Representative DeGracia, aye. Representative DeChoso. Representative DeChoso, aye. Representative Dinsman. Representative Dinsman, aye. Representative Duenas. Representative Duenas, aye. Representative Felicen. Representative Felicen, aye. Representative Garrido. Representative Garrido, aye. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, pass. Secretary Lorenzo. Secretary Lorenzo, aye. Representative Matanani. Representative Matanani, aye. Representative Pareda. Representative Pareda, aye. Representative Pierre-Paul. Representative Pierre-Paul, aye. Representative Kineni. Representative Kineni, pass. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Vice Speaker Richards. Vice Speaker Richards, aye. Representative Roque. Representative Roque, aye. Representative Rosario. Representative Rosario, aye. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Elijah Santos, aye. Representative Javen Santos. Representative Javen Santos, aye. Representative Tyron. Representative Tyron, aye. Speaker Valencia. Speaker Valencia, aye. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, aye. Representative Kineni. Representative Kineni, aye.
Bill number 5-32, as amended by the Committee on Education and Youth Affairs and further amended on the floor, received 24 ayes, 0 nays, and 6 excused absences. Bill number 5-32 hereby passes. We've exhausted all the items in our third reading file and voting file. We'll now move on to brief extension of remarks. Any other member who wish to be recognized? None. Moving on to announcements. Representative LeBang, you're recognized. Make sure it's an announcement.
The Committee on Education and Youth Affairs is set to meet on February 2nd to discuss referred back bills and potentially referred bills. The reason is I'll be off island from February 6 to 11.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Any other member who wish to make an announcement? Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
So the Tumuning Tuman Harmon Ladi Festival of Peace is coming up. There's no date set yet, but it will be the date will be available on the Facebook page, or you can call them at 646-5211. And in addition, the St. John's School is holding a roadside cleanup for anybody who wants to join. The meetup place is in front of the school, and it will take place in January 27, 2019 at 7 a.m. And the Blessed Diego Luis de San Vitores Fiesta just passed on January 12th, 2019, as well as another activity is the Tuman Night Market, which is held every Friday evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. Representative Garrido, you're recognized.
I just want to mention that the Committee on Public Safety and Judiciary is set to meet on February 10th at 1 p.m. at Portamoca GPO. All of you guys that are not a part of the committee are still invited to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Garrido. Any other member who wishes to make an announcement? I do. I would love to see all of you in about an hour and 30 minutes at Ipao Beach. We're having our barbecue, get together, a picnic, so that we get to know each other. We hash it out. Okay, we're gonna be playing, I'm not gonna say it on the, okay, so I'll see you all there, 2 p.m., pavilions E1 and E2. That's near the amphitheater, right, Vice Speaker Richards? Okay. It's from 2 to 6. Everybody knows what they're bringing. And if you don't know what you're bringing, bring something. Representative Kineni.
Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the session of the 32nd Guam Youth Congress.
Okay. There's been a motion to adjourn this session.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn session subject to the call of the Speaker.
There's been a motion to adjourn subject to the call of the Speaker. Are there any objections? If none, we are adjourned.